Hi Reddit. I never imagined I'd be writing here, but life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. My name's Kevin, and I'm 34. Until recently, I thought I had my future all figured out. I had a great job, a tight-knit group of friends, and most importantly, I thought I'd found the love of my life. Her name was Emily. She was everything I thought I wanted. Smart, funny, stunningly beautiful, and always the center of attention wherever she went. We met at a charity gala about 2 years ago. I was there out of obligation for work, and she owned the room the second she walked in. We hit it off right away, and before I knew it, I was completely smitten. Within 6 months, we were inseparable, and I was already thinking about proposing. Emily had a past that seemed, at first, like something out of a tragic movie. She told me about how both her parents had passed away unexpectedly when she was in her early 20s. It was devastating for her, but it also made her strong and independent, qualities I admired. I loved how she seemed to have overcome so much and still managed to have such an infectious, positive outlook on life. Or so I thought. We got engaged a year into our relationship. It was a magical moment. One of those picture-perfect proposals with friends nearby to cheer us on, champagne flowing, and Emily shedding happy tears as she said yes. I felt like the luckiest guy alive. What I didn't realize was that the cracks in our relationship were already there, hidden beneath the surface of Emily's carefully constructed facade. As we started planning the wedding, Emily became more controlling. She wanted everything done her way, which I chalked up to stress. It's her big day, after all, right? She was quick to dismiss any of my ideas, but I figured, happy wife, happy life, and went along with it. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of her manipulation. The first major red flag came when I noticed that I couldn't see her closest friends' profiles on social media anymore. Emily claimed they were just private people and didn't want their personal lives on display. It seemed odd, but I didn't press the issue. After all, why wouldn't I trust her? But things took an even stranger turn when she began isolating me from my own friends. She'd make snide remarks about them being bad influences or too immature for where we're at in life. Slowly but surely, she pulled me into a bubble where the only real connection I had was with her. And I let it happen because I thought it was what she needed to feel secure. A few months before the wedding, Emily dropped another bombshell. She mentioned, almost offhandedly, that she had lost touch with her extended family after her parents passed away. This struck me as odd since she'd always talked about her close-knit family when we first met. When I asked her about it, she brushed me off, saying it was too painful to keep those relationships going. I didn't want to push her, so I left it at that. In hindsight, I should have asked more questions. Then came the excuse that would ultimately unravel everything. Emily claimed that she needed to focus on mental clarity leading up to the wedding and asked me to deactivate my social media accounts for a while. She framed it as a mutual decision, saying it would help us both stay present and avoid any unnecessary distractions. I agreed, thinking it was a bit extreme but ultimately harmless. Looking back, it was a calculated move to cut me off from the outside world. The breaking point came a few weeks later when I mentioned wanting to visit her hometown to pay my respects to her parents before the wedding. Emily froze, her expression shifting from surprise to panic in an instant. "Why would you do that?" she asked, her voice strained. "I just think it would be nice," I said, confused by her reaction. "It's important to me to honor them, especially since I never got the chance to meet them." She quickly recovered, plastering on her usual charming smile. "That's sweet of you, Kevin," she said, "but there's no need. The town has changed so much since they passed, and I don't think it would be the experience you're imagining." Her response didn't sit right with me. Something about the way she said it felt rehearsed, but I brushed it off, telling myself I was overthinking things. After all, Emily was grieving, right? That night, as she slept beside me, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something wasn't adding up. My curiosity got the better of me, and I did something I never thought I'd do. I grabbed her phone. I told myself it was just to find her mother's maiden name, so I could look up an obituary. But what I found instead turned my world upside down. Her messages with her friends were full of lies, about me, about her life, and about her family. One thread in particular caught my attention. In it, she told a friend, Kevin's so naive. He believes every sob story I feed him. This wedding is going to set me up for life. My heart sank as I read the words, my mind racing with questions. What else had she lied about? I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, as Emily chatted happily about flower arrangements, I decided I couldn't sit on this any longer. I booked a flight to her hometown, determined to find out the truth for myself. The flight to Emily's hometown felt like the longest 3 hours of my life. I couldn't stop replaying the messages I had read on her phone. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I was about to marry, had been deceiving me all along. But what bothered me the most was her story about her parents. Why would she lie about something so significant? I needed answers. When I landed, I rented a car and drove straight to the address Emily had mentioned once in passing when we first started dating. It was a quaint little neighborhood, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone. My heart pounded as I parked outside a modest house with a well-kept garden. I stepped out of the car, unsure of what I would find. Was her childhood home abandoned? Did it even exist? I approached the house, took a deep breath, and knocked on the door. To my shock, a woman opened it almost immediately. She was in her late 50s, with kind eyes and a warm smile that felt oddly familiar. "Hello," she said, her voice cautious but polite. "Hi," I stammered, unsure how to begin. I'm looking for the family that used to live here. The surname is Bennett." Her smile faltered slightly. "Well, you found them," she said. "I'm Linda Bennett. Can I help you?" My stomach dropped. Linda Bennett, Emily's mother, was very much alive. I'm Kevin," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm engaged to your daughter, Emily." Linda's eyes widened in surprise, and for a moment, she looked like she didn't know what to say. "Emily's engaged?" she finally asked, her tone tinged with confusion. "She hasn't mentioned that." My heart sank further. "She told me that you and her father passed away years ago," I said carefully. Her expression shifted from confusion to hurt. "What? Why would she say something like that?" "That's what I'm here to figure out," I said. Linda invited me inside, and I sat awkwardly on the couch while she made tea. The house was cozy, filled with photos and little knickknacks that told a story of a happy, normal life. Nothing like the tragic tale Emily had spun for me. When Linda returned, she set the tea down and sat across from me, her hands trembling slightly. "Kevin, I don't know what Emily has told you, but I can assure you, her father and I are very much alive. We've been trying to get in touch with her for years, but she cut us off after college. We thought maybe she needed space. But this," she trailed off, tears welling up in her eyes. "Why would she lie about us being dead?" "I don't know," I admitted, "but I think it has something to do with the wedding. She's been acting strange for months, and I needed to know the truth." Linda took a deep breath, as if steadying herself. "There's something you should know about Emily," she said, her voice quiet. "She's always been manipulative. Even as a child, she had a way of twisting the truth to suit her needs. It's something we hoped she'd grow out of, but it only got worse after college." "What happened after college?" I asked. Linda hesitated, as if debating whether or not to tell me. Finally, she said, "Emily got involved with a man, someone much older and very wealthy. He was married, and when the affair came to light, it caused a huge scandal. She blamed us for not supporting her, said we didn't understand her choices. That's when she cut ties with us." The pieces were starting to come together, but it still didn't explain why she had fabricated such an elaborate lie about her parents. "Why would she go to such lengths to keep me from finding you?" I asked. Linda shook her head. "I don't know, Kevin, but if she's lying about us, I can only imagine what else she might be hiding." Her words sent a chill down my spine. What else was Emily hiding? I thanked Linda for her time and promised to keep in touch. As I drove back to my hotel, my mind raced with questions. Emily's lies weren't just careless omissions. They were calculated, deliberate. She had gone out of her way to isolate me from my friends, cut me off from her past, and manipulate every aspect of our relationship. When I got back to my room, I found myself staring at my phone, debating whether or not to confront her right away. Part of me wanted answers, but another part of me knew that if I tipped her off too soon, She might find a way to spin this in her favor. Returning home from Emily's hometown, I felt a weight on my chest that wouldn't go away. The warm, kind woman I met, Linda Bennett, my supposed late mother-in-law, lingered in my mind. Her genuine concern and confusion over Emily's lies only amplified my suspicions. But as I stepped through the door of our shared apartment, Emily greeted me with the same radiant smile that had once made me feel like the luckiest man alive. "Hey, babe, how was your trip?" she asked, completely oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. "It was fine," I lied, forcing a smile. "Just work stuff." She didn't press further, and I couldn't decide whether to be relieved or offended. Over the next few days, I found myself scrutinizing her every move. Every word she spoke felt rehearsed, every glance calculated. The illusion was crumbling, and I was determined to uncover the full truth before confronting her. That night, as Emily slept, I reached for her phone again. This time, I wasn't looking for vague suspicions. I was searching for hard evidence. Her text history was wiped clean, but her email held a treasure trove of clues. I found exchanges with a high-end wedding planner discussing extravagant details I had never approved, as well as invoices for luxury purchases that far exceeded what we had agreed to spend. But the most damning email was from a name I didn't recognize, Marcus Calloway. The subject line read, "Everything is on track." The message was short but sent chills down my spine. "Emily, I've moved the funds to the new account. Once the wedding is finalized, everything will be ready. Let me know if there are any updates on your end." Marcus funds? New account? What the hell was going on? The next day, I couldn't focus on work. My mind was racing, trying to piece together the fragments of Emily's deceit. Who was Marcus? What funds was he talking about? And how did it all connect to her lies about her family? I decided to hire a private investigator. It felt extreme, but at this point, I didn't trust my own ability to get to the bottom of this. The investigator, a no-nonsense woman named Karen, assured me she'd find the answers I was looking for. "I'll need a couple of days," Karen said. "But based on what you've told me, it sounds like your fiancé has been running a long game. We'll see what turns up." As I waited for Karen's findings, Emily continued to act as if nothing was wrong. She busied herself with wedding plans, oblivious to the fact that I was unraveling her carefully constructed web of lies. 2 days later, Karen called me with her first update. "Kevin, I found something you need to see," she said. We met at a coffee shop, and Karen handed me a folder filled with documents. "Marcus Calloway is a financial advisor," she explained. "He's been working with Emily for years, funneling money into private accounts under her name. It's a classic setup for someone planning to disappear after a significant event, like a wedding." I felt sick to my stomach as I flipped through the papers. Bank statements, wire transfers, even property deeds, all tied to Emily. And the amounts? Astronomical. "She's been siphoning money from your joint accounts," Karen added. "And it looks like she's preparing to leave the country." That evening, I couldn't hold it in any longer. As Emily sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone, I tossed the folder onto the coffee table in front of her. "What's this?" she asked, her voice unnervingly calm. "You tell me," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "It's your escape plan, isn't it? The fake accounts, the lies about your parents, the messages from Marcus. It's all right there." Emily's face froze for a moment, and then she laughed, a cold, hollow sound that sent shivers down my spine. "You went through my stuff?" she said, her tone dripping with mock outrage. "Don't turn this around on me," I snapped. "You've been lying to me from the start. Your parents are alive, Emily. I met your mother. She's a kind, decent woman, nothing like you." Her expression darkened. "You had no right to do that," she said. "You don't understand." "No," I interrupted. "You don't get to spin this. Explain yourself, Emily. Now." She sighed, leaning back against the couch as if she were bored. "Fine," she said. "You want the truth?" "Yes, I lied about my parents. I lied about a lot of things. But can you blame me? Do you know how hard it is to get what you want in this world when people think you're just some nobody?" I stared at her, stunned by her audacity. "So this was all about money?" I asked. "It's always about money," she said with a shrug. "But don't act so innocent, Kevin. You loved showing me off, didn't you? The beautiful fiancée who made you look like a big shot. We both got something out of this." Her words felt like a slap in the face. I didn't know what to say. The woman sitting across from me was a stranger, a cold, calculating stranger who had used me for her own gain. Why even agree to marry me? I asked, my voice breaking. "Because you were easy," she said bluntly. "You fell for the sob story, the perfect act." And I thought, why not? But then you started asking questions, poking around where you shouldn't. That's when I knew it wasn't going to work. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. "So what now?" I asked. "You take the money and run?" Emily smirked, standing up and grabbing her coat. "You're smarter than I gave you credit for," she said. "But it's too late, Kevin. The wheels are already in motion." As she walked out the door, I realized this wasn't just the end of our relationship. It was the beginning of a fight I wasn't sure I could win. After Emily walked out, leaving me sitting in the wreckage of our relationship, something inside me shifted. The sadness was still there, but it was quickly replaced by anger, a searing determination to hold her accountable. She had lied, manipulated, and used me. And now she was planning to disappear with everything I had worked for. But I wasn't going to let her get away that easily. The first thing I did was call Karen, the investigator. "She knows I'm onto her," I said. "I need to stop her before she leaves the country." Karen's voice was calm, almost reassuring. "We have enough evidence to involve the authorities, Kevin. But if you want to handle this personally first, we'll need a plan." The plan we came up with was risky, but it was my best shot at stopping Emily. Karen had uncovered that Emily's secret accounts were linked to a property she had recently purchased, a luxury apartment downtown. If she was planning to flee, that would be her staging ground. The next day, I called Emily under the pretense of wanting to talk things through. She was predictably dismissive, but I could tell she was intrigued by my tone. "Fine," she said. "Meet me at the apartment tonight. We'll settle this once and for all." Perfect. When I arrived at the apartment, my heart was pounding. Karen and a colleague were parked nearby, ready to step in if things went south. I knocked on the door, and Emily opened it, looking as composed and smug as ever. "Well," she said, motioning me inside. "Here we are. What do you want, Kevin?" I stepped into the sleek, modern space, my eyes scanning for any clues. On the coffee table, there were stacks of documents, bank statements, fake IDs, even a plane ticket. She wasn't just planning to leave. She was planning to vanish entirely. "I want answers," I said, keeping my voice steady. Emily laughed, walking over to pour herself a glass of wine. "Kevin, we've been over this. You were a means to an end. Don't take it personally." Her nonchalance sent a wave of fury through me. "You think you can just walk away from this?" I said, my voice rising. "You've stolen from me, lied to me, and destroyed everything we built together." She turned to face me, her expression cold. "What are you going to do about it?" Her words hung in the air, daring me to act. But I had already set the wheels in motion. "You're not as smart as you think, Emily," I said, pulling out my phone and playing the recording I had secretly made of our last conversation. The one where she admitted to using me, lying about her family, and funneling money into secret accounts. Emily's face twisted in shock and then rage. "You're recording me?" she hissed. "Of course," I said. "And I've already sent copies to my lawyer, the bank, and the police." Her composure cracked, and for the first time, she looked genuinely scared. "You can't prove anything," she said, her voice shaking. "Oh, but I can," I said, pulling out the folder Karen had given me. "These documents connect every dot. And your little friend Marcus? He's already under investigation for fraud. It's over, Emily." As if on cue, there was a knock at the door. Emily froze as Karen and her colleague entered, followed by two police officers. "Emily Bennett," one of them said, "you're under arrest for fraud, theft, and conspiracy." She turned to me, her eyes wild with panic. "Kevin, you don't have to do this," she pleaded. "We can work this out." I shook my head, feeling a strange sense of calm. "You made your choices, Emily. Now you have to live with them." The officers cuffed her and led her out, her protests fading into the hallway. I stood there for a moment, taking in the silence of the empty apartment. In the weeks that followed, the fallout was immense. Emily's actions had left a trail of victims, and the authorities were unraveling the full extent of her schemes. As for me, I focused on rebuilding my life. It wasn't easy, but for the first time in months, I felt free. Free from the lies, the manipulation, and the weight of a relationship built on deceit. And while the scars of Emily's betrayal would take time to heal, I knew one thing for certain. I would never let anyone take advantage of me like that again. In the days following Emily's arrest, my emotions were a whirlwind. Relief, anger, sadness, it all came in waves. As much as I hated to admit it, there was still a part of me that mourned the relationship we had, or at least, the one I thought we had. But one thing was clear. It was time to move forward. I met with my lawyer the next day to start the process of reclaiming what was left of my finances. Thanks to Karen's meticulous work, we had a solid case against Emily. She hadn't been as careful as she thought, and the evidence against her was overwhelming. While the legal proceedings would take time, I was reassured that justice was on my side. But rebuilding my life wasn't just about money. It was about finding myself again. Emily had controlled so many aspects of my life that I barely recognized the person I was before I met her. I had to reconnect with the people and passions I had let slip away. The first thing I did was reach out to my friends, the ones Emily had convinced me to cut off. To my surprise, they were more understanding than I expected. We knew something was off, my best friend Mike said when we met for coffee. But we didn't want to push you away by saying it outright. Their support was a reminder that I wasn't alone, even if I had felt that way for a long time. I also started seeing a therapist. It wasn't easy to admit that I needed help, but I knew I couldn't untangle the emotional mess on my own. The sessions were eye-opening. I realized that my willingness to ignore the red flags with Emily stemmed from a deeper fear of being alone. I had clung to the idea of a perfect relationship even when the reality was far from it. Through therapy, I began to rediscover my self-worth. I wasn't just the guy Emily had manipulated. I was someone who deserved genuine love and respect. One day, while sorting through the remnants of our life together, I found something that stopped me in my tracks. It was a photo album Emily had tucked away in a drawer. Flipping through it, I saw pictures from the early days of our relationship. Smiling faces, happy moments, and memories that now felt tainted by her lies. But then I reached the last page, and there was something unexpected. A handwritten note in Emily's familiar scrawl. "Kevin, I know you'll probably hate me forever, and I don't blame you. But I did love you in my own way. I just didn't know how to be the person you needed me to be. I'm sorry for everything." Emily, the note didn't excuse her actions, but it gave me a sense of closure. Emily was flawed, deeply so, but she was human, and as much as I wanted to hold on to my anger, I realized it wasn't worth it. Letting go was the only way to truly move on. In the months that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. I threw myself into work, traveled to places I'd always wanted to visit, and even started volunteering at a local nonprofit. Helping others gave me a sense of purpose and reminded me of the kind of person I wanted to be. One day, while attending a charity event, I met someone new. Her name was Rachel, and she was nothing like Emily. She was warm, genuine, and kind in a way that felt effortless. We started as friends, but over time, something deeper began to grow. Looking back, I realized that Emily's betrayal, as painful as it was, had taught me valuable lessons. It had forced me to confront my fears, reevaluate my priorities, and rediscover who I was. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine again. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about the future. It's been a year since Emily walked out of my life, and though the scars of her betrayal still linger, I can finally say that I'm in a better place. The person I was back then, a naive, desperate man clinging to an illusion, feels like a distant memory. Today, I am stronger, wiser, and more in control of my life than ever before. After the legal dust settled, Emily faced the consequences of her actions. The courts froze her accounts, and she was forced to pay restitution for her fraudulent activities. As for Marcus Calloway, her partner in crime, he was implicated in multiple cases of financial fraud and is now serving time. Justice, in its own slow but steady way, prevailed. During this time, I focused on rebuilding my life, not just financially, but emotionally. I've reconnected with old friends and family, the people Emily had once pushed away. It's incredible how much love and support was waiting for me, even after I had distanced myself from them. My therapy sessions continued to be a cornerstone of my recovery. My therapist helped me understand that what happened with Emily wasn't entirely my fault. Yes, I ignored red flags, but her manipulations were calculated and deliberate. Accepting that truth allowed me to forgive myself and begin letting go of the anger that had consumed me for so long. One unexpected blessing came in the form of Rachel, the woman I met at the charity event. What started as casual conversations over coffee evolved into something I hadn't thought possible, a relationship built on mutual respect and honesty. Rachel was patient, understanding, and never pushed me to move faster than I was ready. One night, as we sat on my balcony watching the sunset, I found myself telling her everything about Emily, the lies, the betrayal, the aftermath. I expected her to recoil, to see me as damaged goods. Instead, she took my hand, looked me in the eye, and said, "You're not defined by what she did to you. The fact that you've come this far says everything about who you are." Her words stayed with me, a reminder that I wasn't broken, just healing. I've also found fulfillment in unexpected places. Volunteering at the nonprofit opened my eyes to how much good I could do with my time and resources. Working with people who were struggling reminded me of my own journey and gave me a sense of purpose. One day, while sorting donations, I stumbled upon a box of children's books. Among them was a copy of The Giving Tree, a book I hadn't seen since I was a kid. Flipping through its pages, I felt a surge of emotion. The story's message of selflessness and renewal resonated deeply with me. As I sit here now, reflecting on everything that's happened, I realized that Emily's betrayal, as painful as it was, gave me the push I needed to grow. It forced me to confront uncomfortable truths about myself, to break free from a toxic relationship, and to rediscover my own worth. Life isn't perfect, but it's real. I've learned to embrace the messiness, the uncertainty, and the beauty of starting over. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this. No matter how deep the betrayal, no matter how shattered you feel, there's always a way forward. You are stronger than you think, and happiness is still within reach.